The legend of the Silke. According to Norse and Celtic mythology, Silkies are seal folk who are capable of shifting from seal to human form by shedding their skin. Silkies are immortal, but can be killed in their human form. There are many different variants of this story, but the one that follows is my favorite one. Once upon a time, there was a sea king and queen who lived in the ocean with their children. They would spend all day laughing and playing in the reefs. However, one day, the queen fell fatally ill, and she died. The whole family was distraught, and you could no longer hear their laughter. But it was the king's duty to remarry. The sea witch, who had spent her whole life in jealousy and hatred of others, took advantage of the situation and convinced the king to marry her. She was soon overcome with jealousy for the king's beautiful children, and cursed them into silky seals. The king furiously banished her, but no amount of magic could help his children, and so the seals swam away. A few years later, a poor fisherman who was struggling to provide for his children turned around a rocky corner and spotted a fine, silky sealskin. He snatched it up in his hands, imagining the amount of money he could sell it for. He took it home with him, locked it up in a chest, and hid the key. He was sitting around the fire that night, telling stories to his children, when a knock at the door startled him. He opened it up, and there was a woman standing there, crying miserably. She was the most beautiful person he had ever seen, and he immediately invited her to the fire and gave her some soup. She couldn't tell them where she was from, only that she had nowhere to go, and so they invited her to stay with them until she had regained her strength. As time passed, the fisherman and his family fell in love with her, and he asked her to marry him. Although she longed for the ocean, she couldn't achieve this without her silky skin, and so she agreed. They had many children together and were very happy. One day, when the wind was howling and the storm was raging, the fisherman set off for work. The Silke begged her husband not to go, but he said the worst has passed, and he left. As the weather worsened, the Silke had a premonition about her husband. His ship had capsized, and he was fighting for his life. All of a sudden, a sharp wind blew through the house, and something fell down from the attic. It was a key. The kids were all excited about what types of treasures it could open, when the oldest daughter remembered about the old chest in the corner. They all gathered around it and turned the lock. Obviously, inside, they found the silky skin. Whether it was the noise or the smell of her old skin, the Silke snapped out of her thoughts and ran to the skin. She snatched it from her children's hands, and with only a kiss goodbye for each of them, she sprinted outside to the sea, put it on, and dived in. She found her husband almost dead, and luckily she was able to safely carry him to the shore. Unfortunately, the curse of the witch ensured she could never return to land and her human family, so she lived in the ocean with her brothers and sisters, watching her children grow up from afar.